listening to Ring Chronicles with Lance Vaughn and Glenn Ritchie.
All right, we are back on the night of AEW World's End. What's going on?
You know how it is. Same old, same old.
Yep. We got some shit to talk about. We saw a certain new
film.
movie, earlier this week.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss that. And did you want to touch on the new Chris Jericho allegations?
Wait a minute. What?
You haven't heard about this today?
I have not heard about this today.
Okay, so yeah, apparently this just blew up this morning. Okay, so it's new. Let me pull up a little something here, but I can summarize it. I think.
All right, and I'll tell you if it's true or false.
So the allegation is that Chris Jericho, at the beginning of AEW, had some inappropriate encounters with Kylie Rae. Kylie Rae was in AEW at the very start, and she only did a handful of shows, and then she was gone. And apparently the rumors are, and remember, these are nothing but rumors right now. That's what we have to keep in mind here. But somebody blew this up this morning. And apparently this happened 4 or 5 years ago, back when AEW first started. So somebody's been sitting on this. But another one of the accusations is that she was forced to sign an NDA on her way out.
Oh, wow.
So she's never said anything about this. Some reporter somewhere. I'll see if I can pull it up real quick.
It's all true. I mean, I ain't trying to get political here, but Chris Jericho is a guy that has faith in a guy that thinks it's okay to just walk into a women's dressing room and grab him by the crotch or whatever it was that he said.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you support a guy like that, then what's the difference between that and whatever this is?
Yeah.
Do I not make a good point?
Well, I mean, I'm just not saying. And here's another thing. Did you see the stuff earlier this week where he was going back and forth with Stephen P. New, the attorney?
I saw glimpses of that. Explain that to me.
Okay, so I don't know the full story on that, but apparently it had to do with the NDAs that were signed after CM Punk's incident at All Out, and I guess between who signed an NDA and who didn't, and Chris Jericho said he didn't sign anything. So I don't know if Chris Jericho was trying to say he can talk about it all he wants because he didn't sign anything, or what.
Huh.
Okay, so Hours of Wrestling's Nick Houseman later called Chris Jericho out for having people sign NDAs himself. That got Houseman a subsequent block from the former AEW champion. So that's the guy that I guess originally broke the news. Nick Houseman later had Stephen P. New on his Rumor and Innuendo podcast for an interview about everything that was going on with that situation. Then a clip of Nick Houseman from that Rumor and Innuendo podcast went viral. In that clip, Houseman made mention of skeletons in Chris Jericho's closet. He also brought Harvey Weinstein's name into that situation as a comparison to Chris Jericho's situation. Yeah, apparently Kylie Rae hasn't said anything, although apparently she has liked some of the comments that have been made, like on X or whatever. So,
well then,
yeah,
my vote is that it happened.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the allegations are specifically, but yes.
Okay, so I don't know if he was just harassing Kylie Rae, if he was touching Kylie Rae. I don't know what happened.
Any of it.
It's
true.
Okay, I tell you what. There's a guy that I've been following recently on TikTok. I forget the guy's name right off, but he used to work for Ohio Valley Wrestling, and he's been doing some commentary. And the comments he makes, I generally agree with. But he made a suggestion after the Chris Jericho stuff came out. We'll see what you think, because he has a match tonight at World's End. And I'll play it real quick.
Have reached out asking me my thoughts on this Chris Jericho situation today. I think it's very simple. This is what you do if you're AEW. Tony Khan, listen up. What you do is you suspend Chris Jericho pending an investigation. He does not wrestle on the pay-per-view tonight. Regardless if Chris Jericho is guilty or not of the misconduct, it sends a clear and present clear message that says, AEW, we will not stand for this stuff. This has been something that's too problematic in the wrestling community for far too long. We're taking a stand on it regardless. We take all reports seriously. They will be investigated by a third party. And then you let what happens happens. If Chris Jericho is indeed found guilty of the sexual misconduct or wrongdoing out of the company, that's fine. He needs to go. That's for anybody. Don't care if you're world champion. Don't care if you're Chris Jericho and you've done everything in this business. You do that, you're out. And I think you need to be out of the business forever. And if it's you find that there's no misconduct, then you put out that report saying, hey, we have independent third parties. People are not going to like that. But if you're innocent, I don't know what you say other than that. Lastly, a little thought here in regards to that. Nick Hausman was the journalist reporter who mentioned something under the original tweet, which spurred this whole thing on. It makes me have to ask a question that's absolutely not important, maybe. And my thing is, Nick Hausman, how long did you know that? Have you been sitting on that for 5 years since the incident happened, allegedly? Or is this new news? If you've been sitting on it for 5 years, I think that makes you culpable as well. I guess it kind of leads to the overarching question, how much, I guess, journalistic integrity or responsibility does someone in the pro wrestling community have? I don't know, I guess that's another topic for another day. But the Chris Jericho situation, suspend him, get him off television, have a third-party investigation, give us the rundown of what happened at the end, full transparency, and send a clear message that we don't do this shit anymore.
Thoughts on that?
So
I was kind of talking.
him?
I was kind of talking shit earlier.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he's guilty or not.
Yeah.
I was just, I don't like Chris Jericho's politics and some of his crazy beliefs.
Right.
And that makes me not a fan of Chris Jericho.
Right.
But in all honesty, no, you don't suspend him.
Okay.
We don't even know what the allegations are. Like, did he whistle at her? I mean, did he, like you said, did he touch her?
Yeah.
Did he make advances on her? I mean, did he just look at her while she walked by? I mean, we don't know enough to say what they should do.
Right.
So, no, you don't. You do investigate it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, if he did it, I mean, I would be fine with kicking him out of the company and being done with him, and that'd be the end of his career. And, and he can just, I don't know, do something else, but not wrestle anymore. But, I mean, if it was something serious, you know what I mean? But we don't even know what it is that he did. So I that's kind of crazy to jump to. Let's suspend him on a pay-per-view night.
Yeah.
And do this investigation, and he doesn't work until we do the investigation. I mean, it's not like he's a police officer and, could offend again or something like that. Like, now all eyes are going to be on him.
Right.
The chances of something happening are probably pretty slim right now.
Yeah.
But once again, I reserve the right to change my mind about that, given more information.
Right.
If it's something, if it was a sexual assault, then suspend them. You know, that's serious. But did he? I don't know if there's more information or not. I mean, there could be more information. I just don't know.
This is, there's multiple allegations here. The NDA part, if that's true, then that means Tony Khan already knew about it, right? I mean, he had to have known if there was NDAs passed around and signed.
Yeah, and that kind of puts him in the same category as Vince, although even worse, maybe. Depending on what happened.
Right. Yeah. So we don't know. I don't know. It's too deep to say. I hate to say you do nothing right now, but it doesn't feel right to suspend him either. to me.
You know, this is a really bad time though for AEW to have a big controversy like this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already kind of like on their last leg at the moment.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna like throw in this.
Yeah. So
we're just going to have to wait for more information.
Yeah. I guess that's the boat I'm in. I need more info. Not that our opinion matters, but it is fresh
Lance,
news.
it does matter. We're doing quality wrestling analysis.
Well, I also don't want to be one of those. And I've seen tons of this today where people want to,
Be lawyers,
eviscerate somebody on the internet, and I don't want to be one of those guys. Just to get some views and some clicks and whatnot.
Why not?
Oh my God! Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a celebrity. I mean, like, are we gonna feel sorry for them while they're like suspended in their mansion?
Probably
with
not,
their like movie theater television set up and like.
I don't care about that. I just don't want to be a piece of shit on the internet. There's too many of that.
Oh well, I don't care about being a piece of shit on the internet. Let's be one.
So anyway, there's a pay-per-view tonight, and the only thing on my mind really about this is, MJF's contract is up at the end of the year, which is in 2 days. So
they're making that into a big thing, and he's going to re-sign. I mean,
I think he is too.
They wouldn't have this pay-per-view hinting at his contract being up called World's End and selling this shit. It's all a gimmick. It's all bullshit. It's all a gimmick.
So okay,
it's a work.
What I was getting at,
I meant to say work instead of a gimmick, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But what I was getting at was otherwise, would the result of his match with Samoa Joe tell you whether or not he's leaving? If he drops the title, would that tell you he's leaving?
No, because that's a work. If he wins, it's a work.
Well, if he wins, he's definitely staying, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
he's not losing the belt to Samoa Joe.
No?
No.
Okay. All right.
But if he did, it's still a work.
Okay.
It's still a work.
All right.
That'd be just a way to get more people to watch Dynamite.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, a good way to get more people to watch Dynamite is to keep pushing Swerve Strickland.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen his stuff lately.
No, honestly, I have watched very little wrestling lately.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, there was a lot on the internet this past week about whether or not he should have been in the Continental Classic final. He ended up in a triple threat match with Moxley and Jay White to determine who the finalist was from that group. And Moxley won, so it's going to be Moxley and Kingston tonight for that tournament championship. And a lot of people were shitting themselves that Swerve Strickland's not in it. And I just couldn't disagree more, because if you give him this title, you're giving him a third or fourth tier title. So how is he supposed to get to a world championship match with those titles?
Well,
because it doesn't make sense to me. If you carry these titles, you're most likely going to drop them before you win the world title. So you're going to lose a third or fourth tier title and then suddenly get a world championship title shot.
That's not necessarily you could have the belt and win the world title.
Yeah, but then he would have 4 belts.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Yeah. I don't understand having another belt. There's a lot of things at AEW I just don't understand. Mm-hmm. And it's like they're just pulling belts out of asses. Okay.
I know another company that's done that.
Yeah.
Pulling belt. I don't know. Maybe that's a trend. I don't know.
But at least the WWE does clean it up eventually, though. They got rid of the NXT UK title, the Cruiserweight title. They got rid of that one. Mm-hmm. No longer have the hardcore. No longer have 24/7. So they add titles, but they clean it up. AEW just keeps spewing out titles.
Well, the thing is that it's not even their titles. I mean, a lot of the titles are either Ring of Honor titles or
Ring of Honor is their titles,
there's
though.
yeah, but it could stay on their own shows though. It could stay on the Ring of Honor shows.
It's where it should stay.
Yeah. So like, I mean, last night on Rampage there was a pure title championship match with Wheeler Yuta and Matt Sydal.
So, do we have any errors and omissions?
Ooh, that's a good question. None that I can think of. Do you have any?
Can't think of anything. Do we have any lariats of hate?
Ooh. Well, hang on just a second.
This is the Lariat of Hate.
Okay, so last week I missed one. Okay, so this isn't from this past week. This is from last week, and I missed this one. So this was off the video. This is the clip where we were talking about whether or not it hurt WWE when CM Punk left the first time.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, and you know, we were talking about how it didn't really hurt WWE, but it has hurt AEW that CM Punk has left.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this one.
Yeah. Okay, so now this comment kind of makes it sound like the guy didn't even like look at the video. He just read the title and then made a comment. And by the way, that happens a lot on the internet.
Yeah.
Where people don't read an article or they don't watch a video, they just read the title and then comment. But he says, "Sigh, AEW is a rinky-dink, podunk, second grade outlaw promotion. Of course they would reel from losing their biggest draw." Well, now that's a Cornette listener out there.
I agree. I would agree with this person. I'm in agreement.
You see, but the way he wrote it, I'm not sure if he's agreeing with us or if he just didn't watch the video.
Yeah,
because I mean that's pretty much what we said.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what was said in the video. That's all the lariat of hate I got.
So the guy that likes Vince Russo got no lariat of hate.
No. In fact, we didn't do that great with the clips this week, and I think the reason is because what we were talking about just wasn't trending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we did get some likes and stuff, but yeah, there were no comments or anything. I mean, it's no fault of his or ours. We just weren't talking about a trending topic, but hopefully that changes right now as we talk about the Iron Claw.
Yeah, it's a historical topic, but it's a current topic at the same time.
It's a current topic. And I already researched the search terms on YouTube, and everybody's searching for the Von Erichs and the Iron Claw movie and all that stuff. So
okay,
hopefully we get a little bit of a surge.
We're on a good topic right now.
Right.
So one thing that I learned from you before we watched the movie, because I went into the movie not even knowing anything about what I was getting into.
Okay.
Like, I didn't know if this was going to be accurate,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
And they apparently admitted the life of Chris Von Erich.
Right.
And you said it was because the movie as it was had too much tragedy.
Right.
In it.
The director said the movie couldn't handle another tragedy.
Wow.
So, yeah, and you know, looking back at the movie, in fact, I was kind of watching the clock as I was watching the movie.
Yeah.
And we were over an hour into the movie before the death of David Von Erich happened.
Wow.
That was the first death. So,
well, technically, the
movie,
first death was of a child.
Well, Jackie, but that wasn't really covered.
Yeah.
It was just kind of mentioned. It wasn't a huge plot point, but yeah, we were over an hour into the movie before the death of David was covered, and the whole movie was just over 2 hours, I think. So you had 4 deaths within an hour.
Yeah,
and it was just like boom,
one
boom,
after
boom.
the other.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, Jack Jr. Was accidentally shocked and drowned in a puddle at the age of 6.
Yes. Did you watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode on the Von Erichs?
Yes, I did.
Okay, they covered that a little bit. They kind of explained. Apparently, they had this trailer, and there was some exposed wires or something, and he touched something, and it electrocuted him, and then he fell into a puddle or something. It was just crazy. It's just terrible.
Tragic.
It's
tragic,
terrible. Yeah.
Tragic. Okay, so I happen to know a little bit about mental health stuff. Just a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a tiny bit.
A little bit.
And of course, we're talking about stuff that happened decades ago. So it's kind of hard to analyze things that happened when me and you were children.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we're
babies even.
We're talking. This is a challenging topic to analyze.
Yeah.
Because we weren't there. We weren't even neither one of us were even watching wrestling.
Yeah.
I caught the tail end of the Texas tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 3 wrestlers that died by suicide, and one from I don't know how do you pronounce this, enteritis, which if I click on that, it says it's inflammation of the small intestine. It says all these different things that could have caused it. So it's just this crazy, what in the hell is that type thing that happened to David? Okay, so you had Jack Jr. as a child.
Yep.
Then you had...
He was the oldest.
Yeah.
He was the first child.
Then you had David. One thing that's really interesting is they had all boys.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the chances of that?
There were 6 boys total, yeah.
Yeah. I saved a quote from... This was on Chris Jericho's Talk is Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from Kevin Von Erich, the surviving Von Erich. He had some disagreements about the movie. He said, "Yeah, Chris, I know exactly what they're talking about." Von Erich said the pressure of his family to live up to the family name. And he says, "First, with this movie coming out, I'd like people to know that it's a movie. It's made for entertainment. It's not quite as historical, but I'll tell you, my dad was a great man. I loved him so much. He was an honorable, good man. What he said, his word was his bond. When you shook his hand, it was a contract. It was honorable. I want everyone to know he comes off pretty rank in this movie." I don't know enough about the situation to support or deny that claim. Obviously, Kevin was there. So I mean, you're talking about a first-hand account versus, somebody's opinion about what happened.
Right.
Of course, maybe Kevin might be a little biased because it is his dad.
Right.
But at the same time, I kind of feel like if, I had all these tragedies, I'd be looking for somebody to blame. Mm-hmm. And if he was a bad person, maybe he'd be who I would blame. Right. So, I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's just, I thought I wanted to share that. That also made me think that the movie was actually probably pretty accurate then, if that was his biggest complaint. Right. Was the portrayal of his father, which is portrayed. His father was portrayed as being a jerk.
Well, I did see a clip of I think Chris Van Vliet. Did I say it right? Vliet. I can never say his name right. Vliet. Sorry, Chris, because you're going to listen to this.
But yeah, he likes to listen to the podcast minions. The little people.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Vliet was interviewing Kevin at the premiere, and he asked him about his dad, and he said he was harsh. He said he was kind of a product of, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it sounded like he was just a product of the time. He grew up in the Great Depression. Men didn't say I love you or shit like that. They were just hard-nosed, tough guys, and so he also said that he played sports growing up, and he said the other kids' dads were the same way. They all came from the same generation. I'm sure he was a tough guy. I trust what Kevin said, and it is a movie. They're going to take some liberties, to tell a story.
Well, Kevin blames drugs.
Right.
That's what he blames for the suicides.
Carrie for sure.
Yeah. And then, the whole thing with Mike, I don't know if he blames drugs for all of them or maybe it's just Carrie. I'm not sure, but, Mike had the fever. Yeah. So with Mike, you had the fever and him, being sick and not being able to be back to his potential anymore. With Carrie, you had the foot. You had, him. Mm-hmm. Not feeling like he's up to his potential anymore.
Now, after watching the Dark Side of the Ring episode, I think part of it had to do with what they did with Kerry in the WWF. They wouldn't let him use the Von Erich name. They wouldn't let him use the Iron Claw. He was just the Texas Tornado, so he was just kind of another guy. And it's like they said in the episode that being a Von Erich is what he had going for him. He was a Von Erich. That was kind of his thing.
Well, yeah, you got to think about it. Like, anybody that can tell you about the Von Erichs would say that they were over.
Mm-hmm.
They were extremely over.
Yeah.
And, like, women were just fawning over them.
Right.
Okay? I mean, imagine being one of the Von Erichs. You know, you come out to the ring, the place is just having a meltdown about your presence. And the women are just like, they're doing everything but just stripping in front of you.
Right.
And then you become a nobody in the WWF.
Yeah.
Just another low card guy at the very end. What does that do to you as a person?
Right.
Mentally?
Right.
I mean, hell, we were in a theater and there was a woman sitting next to you that was like, you know, fawning over this, and she was crying during the film, and like, you know, she was a big fan of the Von Erichs and watched them on TV and all this other kind of stuff. And, you know, given that this was like kind of a historical topic in wrestling, I honestly wasn't expecting anybody to be in a theater, like locally.
Right.
And there was a pretty good crowd in there for,
you
know, the movie. I don't know how much.
And it was on Christmas Day, by the way. We were there Christmas Day, and actually the whole theater was packed.
Yeah.
But apparently that's a thing to do on Christmas, to go to the movies.
Yeah. So there were more people there than I thought there would be. And it was, you know, like I said, there was a fan there. I mean, just the women were fawning over these guys, and they had it made. And you got to look at Kerry. He won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah,
he was on top of the wrestling world.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, he held the belt that went back to George Hackenschmidt. Yes.
1905.
Yes. Okay. And he goes to the WWF, even though he's lost a foot. And I found out that he lost his foot because when it was healing after the accident, he tried to walk on it too early, and he damaged it further, and it had to amputate it. Okay. And I had no idea watching his matches as a child, which, you know, like I said, I kind of came late into the game, so I was mostly watching like video recordings, you know, Coliseum home video matches of the Texas Tornado.
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell the guy had an amputated foot.
Yeah, that's how much of a freak he was.
There was no way to know this guy had a prosthesis.
Right.
And he didn't let people know about it. He would even go to the shower and keep his wrestling boots on so that people would not find out that he had a prosthetic.
Right.
He did tell a few people, not many.
Right.
So he was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He became the Intercontinental Champion, like the movie said, was the number 2 belt in the world.
In the world, yeah.
Then nothing.
Yeah.
By 1992, he was wrestling guys like Skinner.
I don't even know who that is.
You know, I mean, these are like, you know, Barry Horowitz or whatever.
Right. Well, I've heard that name.
I don't know if I said that last name, pronounced it correctly, but it don't matter. Horowitz. I think it's Horowitz.
Okay.
Yeah, he was wrestling guys like that.
Well, you know, they showed that in the movie, you know, when he calls Kevin in the movie and says that, they just have me working house shows now. And that's all I'm doing, you know?
Yeah.
They just buried him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was terrible.
And I think, honestly, that kind of goes back to the usual bullshit in the WWF and WWE where they just have to own every single thing about you. If they didn't come up with the name Von Erich, then you're not going to be a Von Erich. You know, like just Vince just had to own you in every way. And
he had losses against guys like Rick Martel, Nails, and Kamala. His final appearance was a loss to Shawn Michaels in Primetime Wrestling. He was announced to face Papa Shango at SummerSlam, but was replaced by El Matador and he officially left the WWF in August of 1992. What do? You're on top of the world, and then it's failure. You know?
Yeah.
The same with Mike. I don't know too much about Chris Von Erich as far as his suicide and what was his motivations for it. Death is listed here. But he shot himself.
Yeah.
So another thing about suicide, it can run in families. Now, often I've seen it, you know, or it's been like the father kills himself and the son kills himself, and it goes down like that.
Right.
I don't know of any instances aside from the Von Erichs where it went across lines of the same generation.
Right.
But what happens is when one person kills themselves in a family, it kind of like opens a door. It becomes acceptable in that family. Well, this person took the way out, so it's okay if I take the way out too.
Right.
And you notice that it was similar methods of suicide. Chris and Kerry shot themselves. Mike, he shot himself too, right?
I think he OD'd.
No, he OD'd. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, days before his death, he had been arrested for DUI. He drank alcohol and overdosed on the sleeping pill Placidil. Never even heard of that one. I don't know anything about it. But anyways, so yeah, overdoses, gunshots. I mean, it's just it's just depressing. Especially when they were so over.
Yeah.
And there's this idea of the family curse with this family. Fortunately, we haven't seen anything with the third generation wrestlers,
right?
Lacey and Kevin's two sons, that are wrestling in the indies,
right?
Unfortunately, they haven't been extremely successful,
right? That's my understanding.
Yeah, so that sucks, but I don't know, man. This is just it's just a depressing topic, and like you said, like the last part of the movie was just constant death and boom, 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 death. If they would have thrown in Chris, it would have been just one more.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they didn't do it because you would have just got numb to it. Like, well, shit, it's another death.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to make of it. What are your thoughts on the film?
From everything I've seen outside the film, I think the film was pretty accurate. Of course, they left out one of the brothers, but I think the great thing about the movie was that they cared about getting things right as far as the wrestling portions. They brought in Chavo Guerrero to train the actors. Maxwell Jacob Friedman was in it. Apparently, he had an EP credit.
Really?
Yeah. I think he played – who did he play? I think he played Lance Von Erich, which I think must have been in the film for a few seconds because I missed that part.
Yeah, I missed it too.
Yeah. And Chavo played I think Chavo played the Sheik, which I think you kind of only saw him from like a distance. You didn't really see his face. I enjoyed the film, but like I said, I was watching the clock because I was like, nobody's died yet, and it's been over an hour. And then boom, 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 boom. And I don't mean to make a joke about it, but it's like, and that there was one scene that I think really summed up how I felt about it, and I think it was where Kevin was talking to his wife, and he was just kind of staring off into the distance, talking to his wife on the phone, I think. And he was just, it looked like he was in shock. He was like, it just keeps happening. It just keeps happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right emotion to have. It's like, you can't even be sad. It's like, it's like, what the fuck,
Yeah. It just, it's never ending.
Right.
Out of all the Von Erichs, Kerry was my favorite, and I think that's just because as a child I did see his matches, a lot more.
He was exposed
later
a lot
in life.
More.
He was exposed a lot more.
Yeah.
You also got to see that there was tension between the brothers, and the film kind of portrayed Kevin as having been passed up on a lot of opportunities,
right?
Which is ironic because he's the one that made it. He was the one that continued living. David got the opportunity, and then Kerry got the opportunity.
Yeah.
other things in the film. There were some anachronistic things like tap outs. They didn't tap out back in the 80s. They said I quit.
Yeah.
There was what was the other thing that I saw in the film that wasn't quite right. I mentioned something to you about it. I can't remember what it was. It was tapping out wasn't quite right.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that during the movie.
Oh, when Kevin was telling his future wife,
yeah.
you know, on their first date, breaking kayfabe.
Yeah.
That didn't happen back then, fellas and ladies and gentlemen, and people of other diverse persuasions. Back then, there were wrestlers that kept kayfabe, like with their kids not knowing that it's rigged. Until the Iron Sheik showed up at their house and didn't burn the place down and yell, something about Allah or something. I mean, when the Iron Sheik came over and like shook his hand and gave everybody a hug and hugged the kids and he's Papa Sheik now, that probably would have been very disconcerting to like watch someone like, Fritz von Erich or the Iron Sheik or one of these villains come over to like your dad's house and like just be friends or something, and you didn't know. You had to catch up or whatever.
Yeah.
How was it? I want to say it was Dustin Rhodes that like realized it. I can't remember. I could be making this stuff up. I want to say Dustin Rhodes realized his dad didn't actually need crutches when he was injured at one point.
That's how he found out.
That's how how he figured it out. There was no conversation between him and his dad that this was rigged. So he's like watching his dad get like busted open like a stuck pig.
Yeah.
And thinking this crap's real, and then he figures it out that it's not.
Yeah.
But I did like the way that he explained it. So if there were any people watching the movie that weren't wrestling fans, he explained that even though it's rigged, the title still means something,
right?
Because you're being pushed based on your performance with things. I'm not saying it in the exact wording that he said it, but that was basically the gist of it. That you get rewarded based on your performance. So I thought that was one thing that was good about the film.
Yeah.
In explaining that while it is rigged, things do matter a lot in wrestling.
Yeah.
A lot. And things, it portrayed things mattering a lot to Kevin.
Yeah.
In wrestling.
Absolutely.
I have to say that in my opinion, in watching the movie, Kevin was kind of like the star of the show.
Oh yeah. It was. I think it was told from his perspective.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's the
survivor.
only survivor, right? Other than David, probably he seemed to be the only one that had his. I hate to say this. I don't know how else to say it. He seemed to be the only one that had his head screwed on straight.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why he survived. Yeah. Other than David, to me. I know Kerry was probably the biggest star because he was in the WWF, but shit, if that shit hadn't happened to David, have you ever gone back and watched David's promos?
I've seen some, yes.
God damn, they are great. There was one I saw where he was like kind of in his cowboy get up, and he's like, I can't remember who he was facing. I can't remember who it was he was cutting a promo on, but he was telling him that I just bought a new set of Spurs, and he goes, look at here, and he puts his foot up on the railing. He goes, look at these new set of Spurs. he goes, I broke in a lot of horses with Spurs, but I've never broke in a jackass, but you're going to be the first.
Oh my God. Oh my
And this
God.
was in like, what, 83 or something? I'm like, this is fucking great.
My God. Well, that is the thing. The promos back then were fucking gold.
I know.
And people don't realize that about classic old wrestling. And how good the promos were back then.
Yeah.
The 80s had some of the best promos in all of wrestling history.
Yeah.
I would say the era that comes close to it would be the 90s.
Yeah.
And then it goes downhill from there.
It definitely goes downhill. Absolutely.
You take any promo from like David Von Erich or Roddy Piper or pretty much anybody back then and compare it to anything that's going on today, with the exception of like a few people like MJF and so forth, LA Knight, there's a few guys that can do a great promo these days.
Yeah.
But my goodness, your average wrestler could just do a good promo back then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Average wrestler.
Absolutely.
The promos they did in the movie for Harley Race.
Oh my God,
Ric Flair.
Yeah. Well, especially Harley Race. I was like, is that actually him? Because it was so spot on. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah. It gave me chills, man.
Yeah.
It gave me chills.
Absolutely.
Listening to the Harley Race promo, man.
Yeah.
And I think he really encapsulated, the aura and the mystique of Harley Race and how big of a deal it was for Harley Race to come to your territory and defend his title. And just how big of a personality he was.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to see why people later on, like Triple H, would idolize someone like Harley Race. And, I mean, he was just excellent. And then with the Ric Flair promo, I was like, okay, you got a guy that's tasked with trying to emulate one of the best talkers in all of wrestling history. This is not going to go well.
Right.
And the dude was spot on with the crowd. Talking about I don't know if it's $600 or $800, and I was thinking like $600 or $800 in the 80s was a lot of money. His jacket, and how the other guy, the announcer, should be ashamed of what he was wearing. And I mean, it was just spot on for the promo, and they really captured the characters. Also, I thought it was interesting that whenever they had moments where like the TV was on in the background, they had actual matches.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I think in that one scene where Kevin and Fritz are sitting in the living room talking, I think they're watching the actual SummerSlam from 1990 against Kurt Hennig. I think it was.
Was it 1990 with Texas Tornado?
I want to say 90 or 91.
I want to say it was 91.
Yeah, it might have been 91, but anyway, I think that was the actual match on the TV. That was playing. But the promos. You want to hear that promo I was talking about?
Go ahead.
I got it right here. So this is from WCCW in 1981. This is from the Vintage Wrestling channel on YouTube.
Here's right off the ranch, and I know what you're set for, but I want you to go over this whole deal. You've got spurs on, you've got gloves, you've got a quirt here. The bunkhouse match, 7:30 comes up at Reunion Arena tomorrow.
All right, Bill, everybody just saw exactly what happened to Tim Brooks, what he did to my Corvette. Armand Hussein had his hand stuck in there also. Everybody saw it. I saw it the night it happened. I've seen it once at KTVT myself, and I came down here and I saw it again tonight. Now, the rules of the bunkhouse match are, as of this, no man is a winner unless the other man cannot get up or is counted down 1, 2, 3. You carry anything into the ring you want to. You wear anything you want to wear. You know, Bill, I've been breaking horses for a long time. And, I haven't used these spurs. I want y'all to get a good close-up of this right here. These are brand new pair of spurs here. They're heavy. Tim Brooks. The ones I used to have, I wore them out. But, I broke a lot of quarter horses. But I've never broke a jackass before, and this is going to be my first time with Tim Brooks. And Armand Hussein, if you come out there a little bit later, I'm going to break you too. Now I'm going to get on Tim Brooks after I beat him, like I promised everybody I would the last time. I beat him just exactly what I did. The only thing I didn't do is I didn't break his neck like I said I was going to do, and I can leave up to this next week, tomorrow night, Reunion Arena. Tim Brooks, I'm going to bring the spurs. I'm not going to wear them during the match. But when I finish, I'm going to get on top of you and I'm going to ride you like a horse all the way around that ring. And you try bucking. Because if you don't buck, I know where to kick to make you buck. And another thing, you might come out here with tape fists. These gloves right here, Bill, you tell me, do they look like they're fresh?
No, they've been worked with.
They've been worked with. You bet they have. And I'm going to tape my wrist all the way up to my elbow if it takes it. I'm going to cover both hands with these gloves. And Tim Brooks, I'm going to beat you like the bald-headed dog you are.
Oh, my
And there ain't nobody going to stop me. All the referee's there for is to count the 1, 2, 3. You remember that. And also, I even brought this. This is a horse whip in case you had never seen one. If you don't want to buck and if you don't want to move, this will move you. Armand, you stick your black nose in there and I'll whip it too. That's it.
That's pretty well covers the whole point.
That pretty much covers the whole point. I mean,
God damn, that was so good.
that was amazing. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Holy shit.
That I mean, so where, I mean, how do you even begin with that promo? I mean, he sells the match.
Yeah.
He sells the match.
Yep.
You understand what the match is about.
Yep.
It's not like,
Yep.
you know, watching an episode of AEW and you got something going on. You don't even know what the rules are. You know what the match is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says what he's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
He sounds like he believes in what he's saying.
Right.
He sounds genuine. You would have to prove to me that he didn't raise horses
Right.
and work at a ranch.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that he wasn't coming there to whoop ass.
Right.
You would have to prove that to me. You would
Yeah.
have to show evidence
Yeah. Yeah.
that this was not his intention. That's
Yeah.
how genuine that promo came across.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I understand that the cowboy gimmicks are harder to get over nowadays. Of course, you know, we got what's his face, AEW.
Hangman Adam Page.
Heyman Adam Page.
Yeah.
You know, he's probably the only one in this era. The cowboy gimmick was a big thing back then. But
Right.
it's not quite as big as it
Yeah.
was back then.
Yeah.
That is one thing I do like about Hangman Adam Page is he brought that back.
Yeah.
You know, because it was for a long time in wrestling you couldn't do it. You know, because
Yeah.
it was overdone in the past.
Right.
But back then, you know, this is Texas wrestling we're talking about. This is the NWA.
Right.
That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
They were able to shed. They kept the Von Erich name for the legitimacy, but it really didn't have anything to do with their characters. It was
Right.
just the family name.
Yeah.
And it's so synonymous with them that people don't even call them by their actual last names. People call them the Von Erichs. I mean,
Right.
it's just that's how everybody knows them.
Yeah.
That promo was complete gold.
Yeah.
I mean, it had everything you would want in a promo right there.
Right.
Like that should be taught at like wrestling school.
Yes. Yes.
The movie also did a good job displaying that David was good on the mic.
Oh yeah. That was a good promo in the movie that he did. And I'm like, actually that clip is what made me go and look at David Von Erich promos.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if he was actually that good, and yeah, he was actually that fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah.
Gosh, that was awesome. Yeah, that was. I don't even know who the other guys were, but I knew they were going to get their ass.
Yeah,
whooped.
right.
I mean,
You knew they weren't going to have a good time.
no, they were not going to have a good time. You know, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. You believe that guy.
Yeah.
And you know, back then, kayfabe,
Yeah.
you're not smart to the business.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to that promo,
Yeah.
you want to buy a ticket.
Right. Right. I would definitely buy a ticket after seeing that promo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd have walked my happy ass down to the Sportatorium and watched that match or wherever it was.
Yeah.
The Union Arena, I think he said.
Yeah, wherever it was. I mean, you would have went there and you would have bought a ticket. I mean, it would have been no thought about it.
Right.
They would have took your money, and that's what they did. They took money.
Right.
You know. The movie did also show how WCCW was a victim of the territorial decimation.
Yeah.
By the WWF.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I don't know. That's one thing I'd be wondering if it's true. Did Fritz von Erich really hold it against him for
selling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand a father being upset about that, but back then you couldn't do territories. All of them died.
Yep.
Wasn't many options. But yeah, this was it was a tragic movie.
But if you knew anything, you knew that going in. It's not like it was a surprise or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. If you knew anything about the Von Erichs, you knew what you were about to see.
Right.
People say, what would have happened if David lived or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really stuck on Kerry.
Yeah.
What if Kerry would have went to WCW?
Right.
What if Kerry would have shown that he was wrestling with one leg?
Yeah.
I mean, think of that. That could have been a big babyface move.
Yeah.
He could have sold it or some crap. I mean, they could have made up some kind of angle where they were stomping his leg that had been amputated, and for whatever reason that caused more pain or something. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have been done if he let that be known, but he was, so ashamed of it.
Which I kind of understand because, this guy was, he was an Olympian. The U.S. boycotted the Olympics in 1980, but he was an Olympian. He was proud of his athletic accomplishments and ability, so it was probably embarrassing to him to be missing a foot.
Yeah, and like I said, you could not tell in his matches that he was missing a foot.
Right.
Like when I learned that fact,
yeah,
and I was like in my 30s when I learned that fact.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just thought about those matches, and you were right, it was 1990.
Yeah.
You watch any of those matches,
yeah,
you cannot tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the movie mentioned that too, that it wasn't showing up in his matches, that, he had a, amputated foot.
Yep.
You just could not tell.
Yep.
And that just shows you how superior of an athlete the guy was.
Yeah.
This wrestling business as a whole has a way of chewing up and spitting out wrestlers.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just like rock and roll or something like that, where, you can be on top one day and the next day you're on the bottom of the card. Mm-hmm. And, that's just a harsh reality of this business.
Yep.
And
it was probably even tougher for them because this family actually ran a promotion. So there was a whole lot more bullshit going on, with that on top of it. You had 5 brothers trying to make a career, plus the dad trying to run a promotion, and then it being handed over to Kevin, and he's trying to run it. And they went over it in the movie like, we're not making any money here. We're broke. He even said in the movie, he didn't have any money. And then in the movie, you see what happens. He sells a promotion, then he bought a house. So he had to get by, and apparently he kept wrestling for the Jarretts after he sold.
It's just, it's just a cautionary tale about wrestling. Wrestling's got drugs. Wrestling's got a lot of disappointments, heartaches. Just bad stuff that just happens.
It was pretty much what I thought, but until you experience 4 tragedies back to back to back to back, it's like I said, that one scene where Kevin looked like he was in shock really summed it up. It's just like, it won't stop, it won't end.
I just wondered about his emotional and mental recovery from all that.
Right.
Like that had to be a long process. I mean, how do you've got 3 suicides of your brothers,
right?
1 untimely death, and then you had him. You had to sell the business. So there's this high where they were all at, and then everybody went rock bottom.
Right.
Everybody went rock bottom.
Man, yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, David's situation was just a freak thing. There was nothing you could do about it. I mean, although it kind of sounded like there were symptoms and they tried to get him to see a doctor and he didn't. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it happened. But then David, I mean, that was kind of a freak thing. He tore his shoulder in a match. He has surgery. The surgery goes wrong. He ends up in a coma. He comes out of it and he's not right. And it was just downhill from there. And then Chris was...
You're talking about Mike, right?
Mike, yeah. Did I say David? I meant
Yeah.
Mike. Yeah, Mike. And then Chris, he was a little guy. He wasn't anywhere near as big as his brothers. He was like 5'5". He had asthma. Because of the medication he was taking, it made his bones brittle. And he would easily like break his arm or something just doing normal wrestling stuff. And he couldn't keep up. And that, I mean, wrestling was the family thing and he couldn't do it. So, I understand how that was hard on him. And then apparently Carrie had drug problems. So it was
stemming from the motorcycle
accident, right?
Yeah, right. Where started his path to using opiates.
Yep.
Which is too common of a tale and has become more and more of a problem.
Right. Not
just in wrestling, but in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Since then.
Yep.
So it's just a cautionary tale. After watching that movie, though, like these third-generation wrestlers, although Lacey's, I guess, retired now, but I kind of want to see them more.
Yeah.
I know that the Kevin's kids have wrestled in AEW at least once.
Yeah, I think they worked a match on like Rampage a couple weeks ago or something. I think they've been in TNA. Or Impact or whatever.
It would be a good time to bring them on now that the
would
Von
think.
Erich thing is
you would think, yeah,
a thing with the movie and all.
I don't see why you wouldn't. Apparently that they've been wrestling Raw. I saw earlier. I think they were in TNA in like 2014 or something. So they've been wrestling 10 years. Sounds like at least. So yeah, I don't see why not. Bring them in.
Yeah, they're experienced.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just a big fan of bringing in second generation and third generation wrestlers.
Yeah.
If they're good. There's been some really bad examples of that. David Flair.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
Yeah.
Not the worst, but one of the worst. Ted DiBiase's kid was kind of a disappointment, too.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. He came in with Cody, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
He's really good at frauding the state of, I think it was Mississippi, though.
Oh, was that what? Okay,
you ever heard about that?
Yeah,
like,
I've heard something about
charity
that.
or whatever.
Yeah.
He's really good at that.
Yeah.
Wrestling's just had a lot of untimely deaths in general.
Yeah.
I mean, British Bulldog, Owen Hart,
Eddie Guerrero.
Drugs and obesity tend to be the two things that take a lot of wrestlers out. Kamala had a lot of health complications. So there's just a lot there with wrestling. It's happening less and less with young stars. Of course, we had Brody Lee and Luke Harper, but it doesn't sound like, I've said this before, it doesn't sound like their deaths had anything to do with their lifestyle or anything like that.
Right.
It was just freak.
Just medical conditions.
Just medical stuff that just happens sometimes, and
just
there's nothing you can do about it.
Very
unfortunate.
I think you meant Bray Wyatt.
Who did I say?
You said Brody Lee and Luke Harper.
Oh my God. I did mean to say Bray Wyatt. Oh yeah, by the way, Bray Wyatt has a legacy contract now. There is merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
The money is going. The profits are going to his family.
Okay.
So if you're interested in I've bought Bray Wyatt merchandise in the past. I mean, the guy was a merchandise mover. If you want to help the family out, buy some Bray Wyatt merchandise.
Right.
I'm hoping that they include him on like future video games. It's like as a DLC,
right?
And that way, I'm hoping that with it being a DLC, that more money would go to the family.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I would pay for like, gosh, you know, like if I was a 2K designer, I would say let's do this massive DLC where we have like a showcase. There it is. Yeah, like I would pay for like a Bray Wyatt showcase with like multiple Bray Wyatt models of characters that I could wrestle with, including the Fiend.
Right.
I'd want the Fiend.
Right.
You would have to include the Fiend in that.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, the Fiend was the best character, and a lot of people, there's like data saying that the Fiend like buried wrestlers and all that, and like I don't believe that crap. I just think the Fiend was so awesome that he's just awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Lance, did you have anything else to say about the Von Erichs?
I don't think so. I think we summed it up pretty well. I think so.
Yeah, it's rare for us to stick with one topic for the whole
Yeah,
hour.
I know.
But, I mean, gosh, I mean, you had a lot to talk about with that, though.
Right. Yeah. Is there anything else we wanted to touch on?
Nope.
All right. Well, that'll do it on our episode of the Von Erichs, and I'm gonna go watch World's End now, and we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.